My name's Kevin Adams, and I'm a criminal defense and civil rights attorney. And I'm making this video to explain to you how you should interact with law enforcement even when you believe that law enforcement is violating your constitutional rights. The most important thing is that if you have a contact with law enforcement and you think that they're violating your constitutional rights, that you don't do anything to get yourself charged with a crime, that you don't give them an excuse to further escalate the situation further, okay? And it's generally a bad idea to argue with and or fight with law enforcement out on the street. I wouldn't argue with law enforcement out on the street. I would wait and take care of the situation in the courtroom. Their domain's out on the street. My domain is in the courtroom in a court of law. But the first advice I would give you is that if you come into contact with law enforcement, whether or not you think that they're violating your constitutional rights or not, that you should be courteous to the law enforcement, okay? You should be courteous to everybody, okay? Even if they're being rude to you, even if you think they're violating your rights, even if they're doing things that they should not, you should be courteous to them. Oftentimes these incidents are recorded on body camera footage, and if it ever does become an issue, you don't want them to be able to point to your behavior as a reason that they were able to escalate the situation, okay? So be courteous. The other thing is to be compliant. Okay, if they ask you to do something, you should do it, okay? I mean, within reason. But I would be compliant with law enforcement. I wouldn't resist them, either by refusing to do what they said, and I certainly wouldn't physically resist them, except in the most extreme of circumstances. So the first thing is be courteous, be compliant, and the third thing is just a question. And if you're courteous and you're compliant and you're asking questions, human nature will get them to talking and giving the reasons that they're doing whatever it is that they're doing. This is very important if you're going to take action against an officer later on in a court of law. Because what you don't want to do is give that officer an opportunity to talk to his lawyer or to talk to the city's lawyer or his fellow officers and to start making up reasons that they took these actions. If you're courteous and if you're compliant and then you question and the officer gives the reason on the video, it's going to be really hard for them to back up later on and say something entirely different. Now, the other thing that I would recommend is if you have an encounter with law enforcement that where you feel like your rights are violated and you do want to do something about it, check your local jurisdiction. In Oklahoma, we have a very good Oklahoma Open Records Act. And here where I practice, in Tulsa mainly, they have a form on the website. The Tulsa Police Department does. You can fill out this form on the website. You can print it and mail it in. You can take it in person, and you can get body camera footage based upon these encounters and stuff, and then that can really prove your case, especially if you were courteous, compliant, and you questioned and you got the officers to say things on the video that would be helpful to your case. So just try to keep these ideas in mind when coming into contact with law enforcement, and don't argue, don't fight, don't resist, except, and like I said, it have to be the most extreme circumstances before I resorted to that. Now, if you're watching this video on tpdlawsuit.com, that's a website that was created so that we can gather information in Melvin Bailey's case against Wendell Franklin, the chief of police of Tulsa, the city of Tulsa. Okay, and the reason I mentioned it is on the front page of that website is Ojo Bailey's. His name is Melvin Bailey, but I know him as Ojo. Most people probably do know him as Ojo. But Ojo Bailey's interaction with law enforcement is textbook on how you should handle law enforcement. Ojo was courteous, Ojo was compliant, Ojo asked questions, he told him, I don't think you have the right to do this, and they continued to do it anyway. But most importantly is they started rattling off reasons of why they felt like they were entitled to take the actions they were. And as we lay out in our complaint, okay, we believe that their actions were unconstitutional, and we believe through his courteous and compliant and questioning, that he got these officers to admit that not only were they violating his constitutional rights, but that it was a policy of the Tulsa Police Department, as we've alleged in our complaint, to violate the constitutional rights of others in that situation. So if you want to see how to do it in real life, man, I can't think of anybody that, I've never seen anybody do it better than what Ojo Bailey did in that interview. So I wish all my clients would keep their interactions with law enforcement in that manner, and it would make things a lot better and give them a lot better of a chance of seeking redress into the courts.